Generally, when I drive, home slice is over there in the passenger seat, knocked out. Mike Gill is who I'm talking about, the host of this show, the Sports Bash, and he is enjoying his vacation right now. But, of course, I sucked him right back in. Once you think you can get away for a few days, MG, the PT, whoop, pulls you right back in. How are you, pal?
Anything for the PT.
That's what I like to hear. And Nick as well. We're happy to have you on. First and foremost, what is the downtime like for the MG? I really do want to know this. I mean, do you don't go device free? I know that because I saw you on Twitter this morning. You retweeted something that Keith Pompey had and commented on it. You were talking to me and other fine folks out there. Does the MG ever really unplug?
Well, like Dick said, it's one of those jobs where you're so engaged all the time that, you know, when you're off a week, there's so many things that are happening that you want to comment on. We're lucky enough to have the outlet to be able to just talk about these things on the radio every day. So when you're on vacation and you don't have the 4 hours to go out there and kind of talk, that's one of the good things about social media, is that you can still kind of get your thoughts out there. We just happen to have more people who pay attention to our thoughts, you know, that want to engage with you. But there's so many things going on right now, you know, before the end of the year here that are very interesting as we get ready to turn the calendar to 2018.
Yeah, let's throw it up there then for you. What's dominating the MG's thoughts? Because I started with this. I said to Nick Kosko when we opened the show, it's Dallas week. Normally it's Dallas week is enough to drive the conversation. It just doesn't feel like Dallas week. It doesn't have that same feel. Would you agree?
Oh, no doubt. And that's like the chance you take a lot of times. Last year, Dallas week was week 17 as well, and it had no meaning for the Eagles, and Dallas had wrapped up home field advantage themselves. So it's exactly the reverse of last year when you really think about it. So for the last 2 years, that's the pluses and the minuses of these division games being in the last week of the season, because they could be meaningless games, or they could be, you know, like they were in 2013 when the Eagles last made the playoffs. That game was for the winner got into the playoffs, the loser was out. Remember, Nick Foles beat John Kitna that night and got into the playoffs. So, yeah, it doesn't have that feeling, but there's so many other things about this team that are being talked about that are overshadowing Dallas week. And, you know, is Foles going to play the whole – I mean, I would anticipate he starts and plays. Will he play the whole game? Not so sure about that. What about the other guys on this team? See, this is the odd thing, guys. The fact that they already have a bye. Is Nick Foles playing for a half against the Dallas Cowboys really going to help him get sharper for a game 2 weeks down the road? So the risk-reward factor, I think, really comes into play here.
But, Mike, when you talk about what they need to do this weekend against the Cowboys going into the playoffs, to me, you have to play them, if not for a half, if for 3/4 of this game. You don't want to play them the entire game. Just I mean, I guess you can risk injury no matter when you play. You can play them for a play and you can risk injury, but at least a half or 3/4 to me is substantial for Nick Foles, because he needs to get on par with his wide receivers, and you don't want to back into the playoffs. That's my biggest argument for playing the starters, at least on offense, for at least a half or 3/4, because if they go in cold into the postseason, no amount of rest or preparation in 2 weeks' time is going to get them ready for whoever they play in the divisional round.
I mean, I see that point of view, Nick. I mean, the question is, if I told you he played 3/4 and threw 19 passes, are those 19 passes really the difference between him being sharp and coming into that game rusty or not on in 2 weeks from now? I just don't know that any amount of play in this final game is going to get him to where people feel comfortable. You know what I mean?
Of course, but when you look at what they've been doing as a team, you got to remember they beat the Giants, who are, besides the Cleveland Browns, I mean, they could even be worse than the Cleveland Browns because they are a mess in the locker room as well. And then they played the Raiders, who had a porous secondary, and they barely scraped them. They barely scraped by the Raiders. They needed their defense to cause 5 turnovers to win that game the other night. I just can't see a situation where, if by sitting Nick Foles this week, and I get he has experience, he has more games in the NFL than Carson Wentz did, but Nick Foles, a fact of the matter is, he's not Carson Wentz. He needs experience. The guy has been sitting on the bench all season long, and to me, if he doesn't get reps in this game, if he's not playing at least a half or 3 quarters against the Cowboys. That's now Week 17 and then the wild card round where he has no game time experience. He's only played 2 full games and then some against the Rams. So to me, if he does not play at all, that just makes the situation worse, because then you're going into the playoffs saying, all right, well, this guy looked good against a bad team and looked bad against another bad team. So there's no confidence to me in that offense if he doesn't get more game time reps this weekend.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. No amount of playing time that Nick Foles is going to get between now and the end of the year is going to make him any more suitable to take this team any further. They're not going to go to the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl because of Nick Foles. Now, they can win a Super Bowl with Nick Foles. They're not going to win because of Nick Foles. And I don't think there's any amount of playing time that he will get or not get that's going to change that, whether he plays or not. He's a veteran quarterback who's played a lot of games in the NFL. He is what he is. If the Philadelphia Eagles win the NFC, they didn't do it because Nick Foles threw 45 passes for 450 yards. They did it because their defense, their special teams, they managed the game well. I mean, the game the other night, everybody's flipping out. That's the kind of game, though, you need to win in January. Yes, the opponent's going to be better, but that's the kind of – I thought the game plan was, look, it's really cold out. It's a miserable night. Let's just get out of this game injury-free. They didn't want Foles to get hurt, so they had a real vanilla game plan, and those are the kind of games that you're going to try to win. These games where your defense wins the game for you. And I don't know that Nick Foles playing for a half or 3 quarters, it's not going to make him an any better quarterback. It's not going to make him worse. He might not be as sharp. But again, I'm not going into the playoffs saying Nick Foles has to win me 3 games.
I mean, you talk about conservative for that game plan. The guy threw almost 40 passes anyway. To me, and he was rusty. He's 19 of 38. That's only 50%. His only touchdown pass was because of a screen pass to Ajayi, who did most of the work, and he threw a pick. Nick Foles, to me, you don't want to go into the playoffs with him playing like that. And I get January football, the playoffs. We know it's always about defense and being able to run the football. And are they going to win a Super Bowl or get there or even win a playoff game by riding the arm of Nick Foles? No, that is where I agree with you. But the problem is, he played good against a really bad team and then very bad against another bad team. You don't, if you're Nick Foles, you're not going to get away with a 19 of 38 day for less than 200 yards against teams like the Saints, the Panthers, the Falcons, or God forbid even the Seahawks, or even the Rams. He's not beating. The point is, he's not beating anybody in the playoffs with those types of numbers, and the defense is not going to be able to replicate 5 turnovers every single playoff game. That is where we differ on that subject, because they need a total balance. That was a defensive dominated game, and the Raiders are so bad on offense. That is why the Eagles were able to stay in that game. They essentially only won by 3. That was a cheap touchdown in the end. You got to know that.
Oh, and I get you're not going to get 5 turnovers against Drew Brees or Matt Ryan or Cam Newton or these playoff teams. It's you can't rely on your defense to dominate. They gave the Raiders the ball 5 times inside the 50-yard line, and the Raiders came up with 0 points in that situation. But the game that Nick Foles played in the playoffs against the Saints, everybody keeps, saying he left with the lead. That game should not have been close. Foles missed a ton of throws in that game. The game plan was very vanilla for him, and he played okay. He was 23 of 33 for 195 yards. He threw 2 touchdowns. He had the lead in that game. But he didn't really make any plays. That's just who he's going to be. Again, we can't go into the playoffs thinking that you're going to win because Nick Foles played a great game. If he does, if he gives you that game that he had against the Giants, that's a bonus. That's a bonus for you, but that's not your game plan going in. So regardless of what they do this week with Nick against Dallas, I don't think there's a win or loss because, again, you're waiting 2 weeks before he's going to play again.
Mike Gill with us. The rest versus rust debate will continue here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN as we'll continue to analyze rest versus rust and talk about all things Cowboys and Eagles. MG, before we let you go, I do have to mention these Sports Bash awards you've been working on, and I know we'll talk more about it tomorrow. You're going to join us on the show as well, but what are you cooking up?
Well, guys, yeah, we got the categories put together. We got the different things that you can vote on. That'll be up on the website either later tonight or sometime tomorrow. So, so far, best Philly athlete, the best performance in a game in 2017, the breakthrough athlete of the year for Philadelphia, the best Philadelphia moment, sports moment of the year, your favorite Sports Bash NFL guest, your favorite Sports Bash NBA guest, your favorite Sports Bash segment, and your Sports Bash moment of the year. Will PT's Duster get a Sports Bash award in 2017?
For Gill, must be Italian. It's a major award, Mike Gill. All right, pal. Well, we appreciate you coming on for us for a few minutes today, and we'll catch up with you again tomorrow as we get closer to kickoff for Eagles and Cowboys. I know tonight, this Thursday, Mike, this day today is a day like you love, where Flyers and Panthers go right into Sixers and Blazers. You're going to be up all night, and I know you'll be on that social media and texting me back and forth, especially during that Sixers game.
Yeah, the Sixers, that game on Christmas Day, you saw how important Embiid is, and, he's got to stay healthy for this team to make that. Now Christmas Day is come and gone. Now it's big boy time.
The season is on. Mike Gill with us. Appreciate it, pal. We'll catch up with you again tomorrow.
All right, guys. Take care.